Anong kapalit, sir?
Hindi.
Sampalin ko siya sa publiko.
Hindi, wala naman.
Hindi, ngayon na.
Wala pong ganunan.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll give you, no. Sasampalin ko sa
Mr. Chairman.
Session suspended.
Session suspended.
Yes. Sabi
Yo! It's nice to be back.
Former Senator Trillanes, you're recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. Ito pong dokumentong ito po yung naging basis ko nung plunder case na final ko kay Duterte noong 2016. At ito po ay inimbestigahan ng Ombudsman at ang Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang, and I think the Quadcom can invite him. Siya ang nag-conduct ng investigation. Humingi siya ng dokumento sa AMLAC at kinonfirm niya. And because of that, tinanggal ni Duterte si Deputy Ombudsman. Now, aside from that, so pwede natin, suggested by Chairman Paduano, na yung AMLAC mismo, unless, since hindi naman na siya incumbent, ay pwedeng ma-access yun with the waiver. Pero we've been there before. Nagsabi na yan siya na magbibigay siya ng waiver. Puro bluff yan. Pero hindi, kaya nga mas maganda kung ma-draft na po natin yan ngayon para papirmahan niya yan dito, no? Para wala ng alibay. Pero ito po, I'll be presenting later on, Mr. Chairman, a video of his actual admission of these accounts. No? So, ito naman pong mga cheque na in-encash, in-extract lang namin from that long list. Mga managers' checks po yan, hindi nawawala sa system po yan. And later on, exempted sa impeachment cases, kaya pwede po lumabas yan, ipepresenta po yan. That's the smoking gun ng proceeds of the illegal drug trade ng Duterte crime family. Salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you very much,
Sir,
former
I have to
Senator
respond
Trillanes.
to it. This
Former
guy
President,
is
with all due
story.
respect, with all due respect, I'll have to follow the rules. Yeah. I will give you time later, Mr. President. I will give you time later. Just so that we can put to rest this issue of waivers, because it's been going back and forth. Will the former president be okay that if we draft the waiver now, that it be signed today instead of tomorrow? Will you be fine with that, Mr. President?
Anong kapalit, sir?
Hindi.
Sampalin ko siya sa publiko.
Hindi, wala naman.
Hindi, ngayon na.
Wala pong ganunan.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll give you, no. Sasampalin ko sa
Mr. Chairman.
Session suspended.
Session suspended.
Yes. Sabi
The hearing is now resumed.
Chairman.
Yes,
Chair.
SDS.
Mr. Chair, may
Mr. Chairman,
I be
may I
allowed,
move,
with
Wait,
priority?
former
Mr. Chairman.
President,
I just would
Yeah.
like to apologize for the unbecoming behavior. Init sa ulo lang.
thank you very much for your apology. It is accepted, and I hope that the others beside you would also observe proper decorum. So, but thank you very much for your apology.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, just a
Congressman Adyong, I'll just give Attorney Degra a minute. I think he's been raising his hand.
Yes,
But before I recognize you, Attorney, can you kindly turn off the mic of the former president para lang hindi tayo nag-aagawan dito ng... Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the outset, I'm here among the resource persons because I was invited to be one of the resource persons, mainly, as mentioned earlier, as an item in the administrative matter to explain the circumstances of the two letters that we sent to the Quadcom on behalf of the President. So I am also not only a resource person here, but also acting as the legal counsel of the former President. That said, we have reviewed the agenda item for the 11th joint public hearing And I hope we would be able to put things in context insofar as how the proceeding have gone through until now. And I noticed that insofar as what has been going on for the last 9 hours, this would only be limited to item 4, 5, and 6 in relation to the alleged extrajudicial killing in the Philippine campaign against illegal drugs during the previous administration. That said, Mr. Chair, we would like to be clarified because this is a legislative inquiry in aid of legislation. May we know what proposed legislation is being set on the table for the committee to consider and for the resource person to contribute their valuable inputs, if any, so that we can avoid incidents like what we just saw earlier, so
Yeah.
that it will be meaningful, intelligent, accurate, and hopefully not accusatory in character.
Yeah,
So that it will be positive.
Yes.
And as I've said, meaningful discussion, so that we'll be able to come up with effective legislations, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Actually, with regards to your point, Attorney Degra, 2, or if not I'm mistaken, 3 bills have already been filed with regards to the Quadcom hearing. Isa po dyan, may kinalaman sa forfeiture of illegally acquired properties, 1. Number 2, may kinalaman po sa EJK. At saka yung pangatlo po, may kinalaman po sa heinous crime. So, these investigations being conducted by the Quadcom has actually brought about a lot of legislation already. Other than that, our members are also looking into amendments of existing laws so that we can strengthen the institutions and the agencies by which the government operate in. Other than that, mapapansin po natin just very recently, naglabas po ang administrasyong ng ating Pangulo ng EO para sa implementation ng total ban sa Pogo. So, with that being said, Attorney Degra, Congressman Adjong?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to ask Senator De Lima, are you comfortable in your seat, Senator? Because earlier when there was a small incident commotion, I saw you froze for a bit. Are you comfortable in your seat? We can transfer you if you want.
I'm not comfortable, but I can stay here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just concerned with our.
I'm not afraid at all.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm not.
you.
Yes. I'm just saying that for a little bit, I think you froze.
Salamat
And
po. Salamat.
Just concerned.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator.
Congressman
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Chairman Benny.
I cannot help but say this. No? I'm a little bit insulted by the statement of Attorney Delgra. You know, is he trying to question this committee on the pieces of legislation that we are trying to prepare? Mr. Chair, I'd like to find out because it seems to me, Mr. Chair, that he does not actually believe in what we're trying to do. Now, Mr. Chair, Attorney Delgra, my committee, the Human Rights, have at least 5 bills that ought to be filed. And it is not our duty to tell you what those bills are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman Benny. We do take note of your observation, and I hope our resource persons will be a little bit more prudent when it comes to the comments that they will be eliciting in this hearing. Next on our list is Congressman Adyong. Yes, Congressman Adyong.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just allow me to thank the former president for gracing the invitation of this squad committee and for generously responding to the questions and for being candid with his responses, with his answers. Earlier, Mr. Chair, I noticed former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was also joined this committee hearing, although briefly. And we also have the current Vice President in our midst. This is a rare occasion, Mr. Chair. It only speaks about the importance of the matter that is being discussed by the committee, that top officials of our land, 2 former presidents, were present in this discussion. It only speaks about the gravity and the seriousness and the importance of what we are discussing right now, Mr. Chair. So allow me also to, at least to premise my clarificatory questions, because some of the questions that I would like to ask to our guest resource persons have already been asked by some of my colleagues here, and I don't want to labor on those questions. But let me just premise my clarificatory questions. I would like respectfully, if the former president would indulge me with his responses, on the premise that I believe there are certain basic rules, no, that one has to follow, especially for government officials such as ourselves. Pardon me, Mr. Chair, pardon me, Mr. President, if I premise that on a very basic tenets, no, in a basic principle of how the democratic process is being exercised and upheld and being promoted in a country such as ours. Number one, the rule of law. Mr. Chair, I'm not a lawyer, although I do have high admiration to lawyers, because I know for a fact that law as a profession is not only noble, but it is also challenging. And we are joined here on this table, on this side of the table, brilliant lawyers, and even brilliant lawyers who are seated across our table, seated beside both sides with the former president, even seated behind the former president. I say it's a noble profession because lawyers are expected to uphold and to promote the basic tenets, which is the rule of law, and to uphold at least the due process, that the very essence of why we are having a very strong, and I suppose we still have a very strong criminal justice system. Because I know, Mr. Chair, as a lawyer, no matter how convincing the evidence being presented to an individual allegedly accused of any crime, a lawyer has to defend his client before any court of law in our land. So ganun po ka-challenging at ka-noble ang profession ng pagiging abogado. So I just like po to direct my clarificatory questions po to the former president. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and tama po.
Yes, sir.
Thank you po. And Mr. Chair, if I also would like allow the former president to interrupt, just as similar with what Congressman Rog, when he also asked the former president, I would also like to have that kind of arrangement. He can answer me whenever he wants. Wala pong problema sa akin yun, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and then you served as a mayor of Davao City, and also a former member of the House of Representatives, and then went back to being a mayor again, if I have my timeline correct. No? And then before you ran for the presidency in 2016. And I guess the reason why we invited you over to this committee hearing is also, apart from giving you your fair chance of responding to some of the allegations, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, of some of those individuals who were, at some one way or the other, were part of the implementation of the war against drugs in your administration, namely Colonel Garma, Colonel Leonardo. These are the individuals who came out and then with affidavits that they have signed, alleged some things that happened during the implementation of the drug wars against the personality of the former president, Mr. Chair, and this is one way of giving you the fair chance of maybe responding to those allegations. And apart from that, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, you're correct. This is the primary consideration also of this Quad Committee, is to make sure that if there's any policies, laws, regulations in our land that have either weak or needs to be updated or needs to be amended, or for the Congress to pass a new law to strengthen our resolve in trying to protect our streets from illegal activities, criminalities, as well as balancing it with the upholding the due process of law. This is the perfect time for it. So again, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, when you earlier admitted po na you were the ones who ordered the police, yung kill nga po, no? Sinabi niyo po. I presume you came from a position where, as a former prosecutor, there's something wrong with the criminal justice system in our country. I'd like to ask you, why po? I'm just curious po, no, Mr. Chair. Why did you? I don't know if that's an imposition on your part. Why did you have to go to length of ordering some policemen? Was there any wrong in terms of how our criminal legal justice system is being observed, practiced in this country?
Yes, sir. The matters of detention, very limited kasi that's about, you have 9 hours, 18 hours, and then 34. You know, sir, mag-imbestiga ka ng kaso. Kung anong sabihin itong tao na ito, you have to go out and find out the truth. And it takes time. So, in the meantime, you cannot hang on to this guy because there are periods of detention prescribed by law. So, yan ang problema because if the lawyer comes, talagang i-release mo yan, and by the time that you discover kung ano ang sinasabi niya, na totoo, ano at hindi, wala na sa statute. Release. Of course, the periods would depend on the gravity of the offense. 918, I think it's about 36 hours. That's the most. And medyo kulang yan, sir. And usually, if there is a lawyer and there is a demand for the release because the law says that they can only be detained for that so many hours, wala talaga tayong magawa. And by the time ma-verified natin yung totoo o hindi, kung nagsasabi ng totoo, hindi pa wala pang abogado, when we find out the truth, pagbalik natin, wala na. And he is gone forever. So, we are left with so many cases na ganun ang nangyari, sir. Or even sometimes na you have to detain a person and he makes a confession. By the time that you discover really the truth, based on his confession, wala na siya dyan. Pag-discover may only to find out there are serious issues of criminal offenses committed, wala na siya. Because that's the law. So, talagang nakatali ang ano ng pulisya, ang kamay. Because matagal na kasi ito, sir. This is a 1935 revised penal code. Hindi na na-amend yan, sir. So, yung periods of detention, wala yan. Hindi na na-amend yan. So, it's an outmoded, not effective, no longer applicable to the present day reality. Kasi noon, sir, mga kriminal, pwede takbo, magsakay ng karabaw, o mga sakyanan. Ngayon, sir, wala, you know, they can move fast with all the available vehicles at their hand. So we have to amend the laws of criminal procedure, pati the criminal law itself.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now,
Mr.